Hi guys, good morning. Hey, it's Trina here. I just wanted to jump on real quick. We had a great discussion last night at our Raising the Bar Mastermind about taxes and mileage reimbursement and all that kind of stuff. And I just thought a lot of people would probably be interested in some of the discussion. So I thought I'd jump on and just give you some of the highlights. First, we were talking about apps to track your mileage. As a small business owner, not as an employee, but as a small business owner, you should be tracking your mileage. And we'll get into some other things here in a second, but track your mileage. So we looked at, I personally use an app called Mile IQ. It's not free, it's like 60 bucks a year. But what you do is whenever you're about to go on a trip, you push on the app, get started. When you get to your destination, you end trip, and it keeps track of all of your miles. Last night we went over an app, it's free, called Everlance. And basically the same thing. You click when you're getting started, when you get in your car, you're going on a trip, then when you get your destination, you stop, and then you track when you get back. So we reviewed Everlance, and seems to be fairly easy. There's some things you got to work out, but you should be tracking your mileage. And then we were talking about the mileage reimbursement amount. Okay, so in last year, like just last week, the IRS announced the amount for 2023, which is going to be 65.5 cents. Okay, but in 2022, for the taxes that you're currently working on, last January it was 58.5 cents. But then in July 1, the IRS said because of inflation, expenses and that kind of thing, it was more expensive to drive your car. So they raised it to 62.5. So the first half of the year, last year in 2022, it's 58.5 cents, and then July till December was 62.5, and now as of January 1, it's 65.5 cents. So that is the amount of business miles you drive times that amount. That's a deduction on your Schedule C of your taxes. Okay? So last night a question came up. We have some people who have nonprofits versus business owners. Now, a nonprofit, you got to get this in your head. A nonprofit is a separate entity. You don't have business deductions on a nonprofit, right? You will record your expenses and that kind of thing, but you don't necessarily have to track your mileage because you won't get a deduction. However, because it's a nonprofit, if you go to work for your nonprofit with your nonprofit, like you go to guide an activity, or you go to pick up supplies, or you go to an event or whatever for your nonprofit, you can track those miles, and you can on your personal taxes take it as a charity deduction, charity donation of 14 cents per mile, right? So those are the kinds of things. And then we got into a discussion of, well, but I thought you were supposed to keep track of all of your receipts. Okay, so here's the IRS rule. The first year you use a vehicle in your business, the first year you use that particular vehicle, you make a choice, whether it is mileage deduction or actual expense deduction. So if you decide to go actual expense deduction, then you can deduct a percentage, right? And that's the key thing. It's you don't write off all of your oil changes and your gasoline and car repairs and your insurance and all that kind of stuff. You can't write the whole thing off your taxes, only the percentage of business miles versus overall miles, right? So yes, you can take that, and sometimes that is a better deduction than mileage. However, it's a bit more complicated to calculate. The standard mileage is this is how many miles I drove times this amount, boom. So one thing I'm going to say right now, it is the first of the year. Make sure you make a note of what your mileage is like right now. I mean, you should have made it 11 days ago, but make sure you know what mileage you're starting the year with, because regardless, you're going to want to know how many miles you drive your car every year. So that's kind of the, things are tricky. The other thing we talked about last night, we were talking about people were pulling out their receipts and, taking pictures and, creating their files now. Guys, no, 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 no. All right, starting today, you're going to start keeping track of your expenses, right? And you can do it in Excel and in QuickBooks, however you want to do it, right? But I suggest you print yourself off if you are self-employed, right? So that means if you're an LLC or you work for you're an independent rep for a company kind of thing, that's when you can take the deduction, when you're going to file a Schedule C. If you're an employee, they got rid of the reimbursement for mileage for business miles back in 2018, so you can't do that. It's supposed to come back in 2026, we'll see. But right now, if you're an employee and you only travel for work as an employee, you don't get to deduct anything. You just hope your employer is reimbursing you. Let's see, what else? But definitely right now, I suggest if you are a Schedule C employee or a Schedule C independent contractor, you're an LLC or you work for yourself, print out a Schedule C and look at the categories of the deductions, and starting right now, when you spend something, put it in that category. Like I said, create a spreadsheet, or I used to have an envelope for every one of the categories, and I would make notes that, what I spent, so that at the end of the year, like right now, boom, my taxes are ready to go. I know exactly what's going into every deduction amount. It just makes things easier if you don't wait until January of next year to try to recreate 2023. All right, so that's my tip for today. Yeah, and I do have a tax book now. It's a little bit outdated, but the Small Business Owner's Tax Guide, you can go out and find it on Amazon. And go ahead. The other thing I'm going to say is there are great tax people out there who can take this burden off of you. I do not do your own taxes unless you educate yourself. Okay? Don't do it. There's Tia Hines at Elite Tax Group. There's Iskra Perez Salcedo at IPS Accounting. There's AC Mullins. I know she's been posting about her tax stuff lately. And I think Tanita Knoll is part of that group. Anyway, there are people out there in Morelli that do taxes. You guys, seriously, seriously, seriously. Don't do your own taxes unless you are educated, right? Tax law is just too complicated. So you got to stay up with it. You got to be aware. And your job is to track your expenses, track your revenue, and then get a tax professional to help you. All right, guys, have a great day. Hope this was helpful. We'll talk with you later. Bye.